Welcome to the Atkinson Gazette. I'm your host, Michael Boucher. The Atkinson Gazette is a community-created news program delivering important news and events in and around Atkinson.
Hello everyone, this is Michael Boucher for the Atkinson Gazette. I am joined today by Sam Butler, who is on the Budget Committee. Well, let's get right into this. How long have you been in the Budget Committee?
I've been on the Budget Committee. I'm serving my second term, and I will have one more to go before I come up for re-election in 2025.
What sort of activities have been taking place in the Budget Committee?
Yeah, typically the process is not much until September of the year. I mean, we do meet in April when we have a new group, a new committee after the elections. But typically we really start in September. The expected budgets from the departments, the department heads, through October. This year was a little different. The select board changed it so that they didn't give us an actual budget till the end of October, early November. I don't remember what the precise date was. Though we had an idea what was coming, we didn't know officially what was coming till then. Over the last several meetings, we have been getting down to the nitty-gritty of the budget with the actual numbers, trying to look for places we could cut, and with actual preliminary votes. One of the things that the Budget Committee does is we take one or two preliminary votes for each department in the course of November and December. But the vote that really matters is the vote we have at our public hearing on January 9th.
What kind of activities have been going on in the last few meetings?
Well, the last few meetings have been really some specific digging into where we might find cuts. As everybody knows by now, this is going to be a very big expansion of everybody's tax bill. So these numbers have gone up. The DRM tax, the DRA tax rates have all gone up. The most significant one that went up is the school budget. This is because the budget was already passed last year. It's really got nothing to do with this year's budget yet. The town budget went up from, I think it was 240 to 260, our DRA tax assessment. So that's already, a lot of the increase is already in what the tax bills are going to be. As an overall tax increase, this year, the number is, don't get me right on the, don't quote me on the decimal point, but it's about 10.2, 10.5%. There's just not that much to drop. There are a number of large items in this budget, which really we can't do anything about. The biggest of which is a new ambulance contract for $130,000. As opposed to what we've had for the last few years, which has been $1. The way this worked in the past was Trinity Ambulance, the company that owned them, they basically they charge us $1 a year just as a placeholder, theoretically make their money by what they received from insurance companies. Our 6-member ambulance group was reduced to 5 because Plastow dropped out to do their own thing. And the result of that is that the 5 towns are paying various figures that are right around $130,000 a year. Ours is $130,000. And that right there is 19% of the budget increase for this year. The overall budget increase is about $680,000, I think, at this point. And as I said, that's going to be somewhere over a little over 10% of an increase from last year, when our total budget was about $6,800,000 approximately.
What sort of budget items need to be funded by the town that you don't really have the Budget Committee doesn't have any wiggle room with?
Oh, it's a long list. John Apple gave us a document which basically shows that the numbers that have to go up this year, and they're things like the ambulance, health insurance contracts, which we have no control over. They're up about 15% across the board. COLA increases up about 2.5% across the board. In the budget is a new full-time fire chief, which represents in salary alone an increase of about $35,000 over what our previous part-time fire chief, God rest his soul, was paid. He was part-time. We decided, the board decided that should be a full-time position. There's a bunch of other little things in there, various contracts that have been renewed at higher levels. Things like, the cost of mowing. There are a lot of little things that have added, not little things. There are about 12 big line items that actually add up to more than the increase. It's a slight, if our increase is $680,000, and these contracts add up to $690,000. In point of fact, other than things that we have to do, there's a few items. There's things like snow removal, the original request from the Department of Public Works was for about a $30,000 increase. We reduced that by $10,000 to a $20,000 increase. That's obviously not something we have to do, but costs went up. The DPW believes if we want to have the adequate snow removal, the excellent snow removal we've had over the last few years, it's going to cost more. Board of Selectmen think, and John Apple thinks, the DPW think that it's going to cost an extra 20. We could cut that money. I mean, we could cut it. It's something we can cut. So some of that 680 is actually cuttable, but the bulk of it is not.
If you were to put a percentage on that amount, how much would that be of the total budget?
It's about it's a little under 10% of the total budget, of the current year's budget. The budget's going to go up to around 7.4 million, I think, would be the 680 increase. So it's less than it's 10% of last year's budget, but it's less than 10% of this year's budget.
If I understand it correctly, and just kind of going into my next question here, there's about 90% of the budget is 90% of the budget has some wiggle room for cuts or adjustments.
Little TV cuts. I mean, for example, I made the suggestion that us trying to nibble away at each department's budget by taking out $500 here and $1,000 here was not going to help much, and that we should send that back. We should send the entire budget back to the department heads to see what they can cut. I had originally suggested to see if they can cut it 1 or 2% to see if we get under a 10% growth. The actual vote we had was to see if department heads could cut by up to 5%. I didn't think that was likely to happen, and as it turned out, it didn't. The department heads met last week, and some of them came back with numbers, most of them with changes, most of them did not. Most substantial was about, I think off the top of my head, it was about $18,000 in changes from the fire department. They reduced some overtime levels and some maintenance costs on the rural fire hydrants, which are the fire hydrant ponds. But it wasn't even 1% total. So we then last night took another whack at this, and again, it was mostly small things. There were a couple of issues we didn't understand, which we tabled to a future meeting. There was we need some clarification on the town clerk payroll lines, and we needed some clarification on the care grounds. I can't remember. It's not the contract labor line. It's the OPS line, the professional services line, which is similar often to contract labor. There might be some more savings there, but it remains to be seen. We need to see exactly what's going on. But we have made some more cuts. My guess is people are going to propose more cuts. But these $500 cuts, they don't even save people 2 cents a year. The town portion of our tax bill is less than it's about 15% of the tax bill. Call it 14% of the tax bill. As I said before, the real increases are going to be coming in the school lines.
So,
or I should say, are not going to be coming. Have already arrived.
Gotcha. Since you've kind of brought up a very brief example of $500 cuts here and there, and not really a big deal, which sort of reminds me of one of the meetings that took place. I remember there was a cut to the ALA dues from the library, which was $162. And I think some people in viewing that pretty much immediately saw that and said, yeah, this is not going to materially benefit anyone. Could you speak to kind of what happened during that time?
Given what I would call the sort of petty small size of that cut, it really didn't have a lot to do with actually the library budget. The member who, I think it was Peter Tarosian, the member who proposed it, he wanted to do it because he objected to the political affiliation of the current president of the American Library Association. Karen Brown was there. She explained that this person really has no control over the American Library Association. It's the national organization. The president is really a figurehead. That it's like a professional organization for librarians. Mm-hmm. It's not doing political stuff. It's doing more with the day-to-day library management, best practices, and things like that. It's a typical professional organization. And as I said, $162. I'm not sure if that even adds. It's going to take away 2 cents total from your your tax bill. It's it was done for what I thought were petty reasons, and it was argued about. It carried 4-3. It was a close vote, and so we move on. But it is an example of, I'm not sure that, as I said earlier, I'm not sure that we even cut $500 out of people's, not even 500, but $200 out of people's tax bills last night. I'd have to actually, we didn't total the numbers, so I don't have them off the top of my head. We were just passing line items individually. But if we cut even $16,000 last night, $16,000 represents about $1 a year to people's tax bill. Sorry, $1 per thousand for people's tax bill. So if you've got a $600,000 home, cutting $16,000 last night would have saved you $6.
Gotcha.
And the question people have, is which would you rather have, the $6 or an assurance that the snowplow budget will be sufficient to plow if we have a big storm? That's the question in my mind, and I know which I'd rather have.
Right. Yeah, and that makes a whole lot of sense. I know, having had experience on the school board, that when we're looking at the budget, even though we're not directly involved like you are on the budget committee, like going through line items and figuring out where to cut or where to add or whatever, we do have an understanding that obviously each line item exists there for a reason. Like, it matters. It provides a service for whatever you have. And also in the case of the town, you have one for health insurance. Also, you have to make sure you take care of all the people who work for the town. You have to have, obviously the snow plows to plow the road, obviously police to protect the community, etc. Does it make sense to make petty cuts in hindsight of the services that the money pays for? Probably not. And I'm sort of not surprised that someone like Peter, who co-sponsored a bill to have New Hampshire secede from the United States, I'm not surprised to see he made that sort of motion or action.
Just to follow your example, I mean, one of the things that tends to get looked at is conferences and gas mileage and little things like that tend to be targets for being cut. And these are things that are already, they're $1,000 amounts, $1,500 amounts, $700 amounts. But there's a $3,000 line in the tax office, the tax collector's office, that is basically for training. And training is a particularly acute issue this year because we're going from a system of having a separate tax collector and a separate town clerk into combining the offices, which means there's going to need to be some training of people in the town clerk office who are going to be taking over. Someone who's done a great job for that for 25, I don't know how long Deb's been doing it, but she's doing it 20, 25 years and she knows it cold. But now we have we have a new group of people who are going to be doing it. They know some of it, but they may, there's things that they may encounter that, you only encounter once every few years, that you're prepared for by training. And people are talking about, we haven't done it, as I said, we haven't done it yet, but people are talking about cutting those lines. To my mind, that's a classic example of penny wise, pound foolish. Because if you don't have adequately trained people doing business at the town, things fall through the cracks. And if things fall through the cracks over an extended period of time, you have all kinds, the issues start to pile up. And when issues pile up, they tend to be more expensive when you have to fix them than if you address them as they come up and as they're needed. Rather, you have a small hole in your roof, and if all you do is cover it with a tarp, 5 years later, you may suddenly have the entire roof collapse. And then you not only need a new roof, but you've got to fix all the damage in the rest of the place. And that's an extreme example. And not all issues are like that, but it is the same concept, the same idea. When you put off, what you need to do today. We've had issues like this already. We had the police station issue last year when they didn't have heat for a week because, no generators. Generators hadn't been replaced. Furnaces hadn't been fixed. And it ended up costing us $24,000 out of the blue or something like that. And if again, don't quote me on the exact number, but I think I'm in the ballpark. That certain things have to be paid for, and they really don't affect the people's bottom line that much. Whereas $130,000 for the ambulance contract really does affect the bottom line. And there, the question basically is, Does the town want to have ambulance service or not? There's no. We can't get something for $60,000. It's either $130,000 for ambulance service or not, or no ambulance service. That's what's driving the costs. That school budget increases, things like that. And the need for a new fire chief is full time. That's another $40,000 right there. That's what's driving the increases. And nickel and diming other issues, I don't think really helps the town.
Actually, I do want to kind of buttress your point there about what happened with the police. They're losing heat. You could even expand on that idea and say, hey, since we utilized this old, I guess it was originally a church, now a school, and now we kind of retrofitted, become a police department, and it's not adequate to actually serve that need. Now we are looking at possibly creating a new police department, which I've heard all sorts of different estimates.
New building.
New building. And I've seen all sorts of different estimates. I'm not going to throw out numbers, but it's in the number of millions. So we could have maybe possibly prevented that earlier. Maybe we worked on towards getting grants and finding the proper space for it, etc. earlier on. And now we have to deal with a situation where I don't know. I mean, I know I should have mentioned this, that you're also on the police. What was it? The police department committee or
police station steering committee? The PSSC, the police station steering committee.
And so on that committee, I know, at least from when I did one of the public forum tours that you had, that there was a discussion of a timeline of when you want to be able to create a new facility. And it sounded as though, regardless if the town votes in favor of it or not, the timeline sort of doesn't change in the sense that there's still a need to have an adequate building, because the current building is not adequate at all, and there's no way to make it adequate. Because space constraints, and I think there's health reasons as well.
It doesn't have cells. It doesn't have cells, and you'd have to tear the building down to put cells in it. It was built as a church. It doesn't have. There are no concrete walls. How do you have a cell? You can have a wood frame walls in your cell. And we've been lucky. We've been able to get away with it for 30 years. But probably since the police station personnel have also expanded in that period of time. I think it's almost doubled. It's the classic example. If we'd done this 10 years ago, we probably could have done it for half the price. And even so, and that's not to shortchange the work because it's a long process. And the process we are coming to now with the warrant vote finally this fall is a process that began 6 years ago in 2017 when the first committee was formed. We're a different committee now. The first committee was formed to come up with to hire an architect and get a building design. Things get in the way. I don't know if we might have been able to do it sooner if COVID hadn't gotten in the way. I mean, hotel. But this is why we want to try and do things when you can, when they're needed, rather than putting them off, because things happen, and maybe you have to put it off even longer because something else comes up that's even a bigger deal, like COVID.
The way I look at how you're describing the budget, it doesn't really make sense to look at cutting little bits here and there.
No.
It looks as though you have to look at the budget as, what do you want to have and what do you not want to have? And it's really that simple. So like you using your example, if you want to have an ambulance system, great. You can have an ambulance, or you don't have an ambulance. And I'm pretty sure there's probably other examples you could throw out there, like if you want to have a waste management, or not.
Yeah, I mean, another good example would be police officers, which we've had difficulty hiring. We've had, most of last year we had an open spot. It was based on, I believe the warrant article was passed in the 2021 town vote to hire a new police officer. We were unable to do that for a long time because there's limited availability. There aren't a lot of people in the job pool for police officer positions in New Hampshire. The same can also be true for EMS. A lot of places are struggling to find EMS at all, personnel to hire. And so you might make the argument that, and the town, we're because somebody has retired recently, we have hired somebody, but we're still a man down. And right now we're two people down because we haven't had. I don't think the new hire has officially been hired yet. I may be off on this quite a little bit. It's not, these are the kind of things that I know the answer to when I'm told it, and a full month later I've forgotten the exact details. But I know we're down at least one person for the foreseeable future that we need to hire. We have hired the person from the warrant article before, but somebody else has left. An officer who was on paid leave for most of last year for medical reasons has gone. So, and we need to replace that person now too. So, hey, the little side effects. One of the reasons the police department overtime budget was so large is because we had to hire, we had to shuffle people around and pay them overtime to fill the position of the guy, not only that hadn't been filled yet, but also the guy who was ill. So, there are reasons we need a new police station. There are reasons, as you say, we decide what we want. The town decided they wanted to increase police staffing 2 years ago. That added $85,000 in salary alone, $84,000 in salary alone to the police department budget. Another example of this that's sort of out of our control that happened last night, our fire hydrant servicing cost went from about $200 a hydrant to $1,300 a hydrant a year and a half ago because it was something that was in the control of the Public Utilities Commission, and they basically decided in favor of the water company. The water company had proposed, $1,500 per hydrant. We had, I think, proposed to keep it the same, which was about $200. And the various professionals hired by the PUC to look at these, they look at something called a cost of service study. And the only cost of service studies was one provided by the Hawk. So the experts said, this is the only one we have. This is the one we got to go to. We're going to reduce it a little bit. And, the number came as $1,300, which shifted the cost of fire hydrants from $18,000, the cost of fire hydrant maintenance. This is not the water. This is just the cost of maintaining the hydrants, from $18,000 a year to $93,000 a year. And a year when this change was made a year ago, the decision was to take fire hydrants out of the fire department's budget and put it as a separate item. It was its own line, fire hydrant utilities, in the budget. And the reasoning being behind that was because the fire department has no control of this cost at all. It's it's not even something that they do. It's performed by Hawk Maintenance. And we just voted last night to put it back into the fire hydrant. That vote, I think, was 4-2 with one abstention. I argued against this very vehemently last night. I think it's a mistake. I think 3 years from now, people are going to forget that there's an item in there for close to $100,000, and they're going to wonder why the fire hydrant, why is the fire department so budget? Why did it increase like that 2 years ago? And we can explain it. It's not their problem, but it's just the way. We're trying to make that. When it was moved out, it was to try and make things more clear, and now it's moved back in. Even if we label it saying that it's not their responsibility, we're still not making that clear because most people aren't going to look at that detail line by line. They're just going to see the extra $90,000 in the fire department budget. And so back to your original point, the whole idea of what do we need or what do we have to have? We don't even need that to a certain extent. We disagree with the cost of it. The town still disagrees with the cost of it, but we have to pay it, and so it's something we have to pay. We tried to take it out and put it in its own right. And so I think that's why it comes back to you.
Okay. Since we're getting short on time, I do want to go back to one thing that we didn't really touch upon. So I know watching previous budget committee meetings that there was a change in budget committee membership. I know, was it Taylor Hazelton was originally elected to the committee, and then there was a new person appointed. Can you kind of explain what kind of happened during that process, or if there even was a process? I know there was a lot of people who were kind of unaware of what happened. So if you can talk about that.
Yeah, what happened was Taylor Hazelton was elected last spring for a 3-year term, moved out of town with her husband, who was a firefighter. They moved to North Carolina. So that opened up an empty seat on the budget committee. the budget committee basically votes on who they want to be added as a new member. They do it based on who submits an application. We first heard about this. I mean, I'd heard about it earlier through the grapevine. It was something that happened between meetings. So my assumption, and I probably should have reached out to the chairman, Wendy, a little bit more myself, was that we would, discuss the issue, discuss the process, and then vote at our next meeting. Because I discussed it at the meeting where Taylor announced her resignation. That was not what happened. We had 2 names submitted by then, and Wendy believed, after speaking with the New Hampshire Municipal Authority, that we needed to elect somebody immediately. I disagreed. I didn't think there was any hurry. We didn't have anything to vote on. The only vote that really matters. There's actually two votes that really matter, and those are our public hearing vote on the budget, and if there are changes in the budget deliberative, we then meet after deliberative to vote on those changes too, for what our recommendation is going to be on the warrant article. Warrant articles themselves actually have a different vote, usually a week after the public hearing. I'm not. Don't quote that. I may be wrong with that. We haven't really gotten to warrant articles yet, so
That's fine.
I've only gone through this once already. I don't remember whether we vote on the warrant articles at the public hearing as well or not. I just, my memory's not good enough.
To clarify, you're basically saying there's only 2 real important votes.
Right.
Or neither one of those votes were coming up, so there was technically time.
Yeah.
But I do have one follow-up question to this whole nomination process. How was the public made aware of the nomination process, and was there a time period that they could submit their names?
And that was why I was upset by the process. I don't think if 5% of the town even knew this was happening, I would be surprised. And what I'm going to do, obviously Wendy had checked with, we did this, we were legal in what we did. Wendy checked this out, she made it sure. But I would like to put in place a process for the committee that makes it a little more transparent, where we have a time period where we announce somebody resigns. We announce to the public that we have a vacancy, and we ask people who want to submit their names to that vacancy to submit them. And we then vote on those names at the next, whether that's a week later, 2 weeks later. I mean, I'm probably better to make it a week later, but who knows what would work best. I don't think, I think doing some of that is it just makes us more transparent to the town. I'm perfectly happy with the way the vote came out. I assume Deb, if we'd done it this way, I think Deb, who I'm looking forward to working with, would have been elected this way as well. I don't think it changed the vote at all. My issue was only with a process that I think would help the town by being more transparent.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's every other major elected position, like school board, school budget committee, a matter of fact, and I believe the selectmen have some sort of a nomination process, and they would probably wait till the next meeting. So it's unfortunate that our own budget committee doesn't have a process.
And Wendy has worked forward to this. She last year when she became chair, she worked. She put together a new process for the budget committee, which changed some things. And last night we actually voted on an amendment to the wording about the select board representative who's on it. We changed that because Wendy realized that that wasn't really correct, the wording. So we did change it. So this document is something that is a living document we're working on, and hopefully we can make it a little better next year too.
All right, sounds good. All right, before we go, Sam, I just want to ask if there are any important dates that the public should be aware of.
Yes, I would say that the 2 big dates are Tuesday, January 9th is the budget committee public hearing, and I'm going to put in a dig for the PSSC. The police station steering committee has a public hearing on January 8th, and I think anybody who's interested in that should come. They're going to learn a lot.
Thank you, Sam, for sitting down and speaking with me today. You provide a lot of insightful information about what's happening in the budget committee and also the police steering committee. Well, we didn't talk that much about it, but you at least let people know that committee exists and they should be involved. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.